Hi, welcome. So today we are hosting a Women in Effects panel, and we have some amazing people here with us. I have Erin Ramos, who's the effects supervisor at Walt Disney Animation Studios, Danica Oglesby, technical artist at Antific. We have Lisa Nolan, who's an effects artist at DNEG, and Kate Gabriel, a 3D artist at The Mill. So let's start off just with a couple of questions here. What are some of the best investments you've made in your education or interests that have helped you in your career?
Should we go down the line?
Yeah, let's whoever feels it.
Pick the order. Hi. Yeah, I think investing my time, is probably, that was, like the biggest thing. And also just, time spent studying the software and also just networking and getting to know people who can help mentor me in the industry really is what really helped sort of propel my career, I guess.
Right, so I'm hearing commitment, mentorship, focus.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me personally, I didn't know it at the time that it'd be a great investment, but I studied math as an undergrad, and it wasn't until later when I was switching careers and sort of finding my foot in the CG world that I realized how valuable having that just logical, like training of logical way of thinking, not just the linear algebra I encounter every day, but just like how to think in a very logical and structured way.
Wonderful.
For me, I think it was really, when you're choosing what to do for school, we were talking about how we got into effects before, and I had been choosing between doing a computer science degree or a fine arts degree, and taking the time when I was like 18 years old to sit down and think about where I wanted to actually focus my career. Was it a technical oriented thing, or was it in more of an artistic side? And deciding and giving myself the time to decide early on what that was. And I do think that I'm more artistically inclined, so I went with the fine arts degree, and even though it wasn't the more prestigious thing to do, taking the time to think about what I really wanted and moving forward with that is really the best thing that I've done.
For myself, it would be also changing the path of my career, because I've got a master degree from interior design, so I can make your house and everything. But I found out that when the professor would give us a task or design a table, I would rather do all the entire interior and make sure that it has physically correct textures and shaders and everything. And then I would present it to him. He would look at it, but Kate, the table is crap. I'm like, yeah, probably because I was taking more care of the CG. And also regarding the interests, I would say I'm always curious about the new technologies. And I'm also running the London ACM SIGGRAPH chapter, and we are creating lots of events just to find out how the things are done and what we can improve in our industry.
What I love about what the three of you said is there's what we think we can do might change. So there's an openness to exploring new paths. Mm-hmm. What creativity constitutes might be different than we expect, right? Mm-hmm. It might come from the mathematical understanding that allows you to express. And then sometimes where we're spending our time might be a good indicator of what we should really be doing for our passion. Yeah. So maybe you can tell me about two characteristics that make a good effects artist and why you pick those two.
I think, personally for me, openness and a curiosity is really important to be a good effects artist, and especially because, as you guys know, those of you who've been in the industry for a while, things change so fast, and you need to be open and willing to try something new, try a different approach, and not kind of just stick with what you're comfortable with. So yeah, it's that just being curious about what's out there, what's new, how, I know how to do this, but is there a way I can do it better? Is there a faster way? Is there a more efficient way? And just that willingness to ask questions, I think, is really important.
Wonderful. In the technical artist area, something that's been valuable for my team, or teams, since I work with artists, I work with developers, is being sort of cognizant of problems that might arise, before anyone's sort of aware that they even exist, and sort of getting the jump on it and thinking of solutions to it. If you're one step ahead of both teams and you're advocating for both of your teams, it really helps that facilitation process and, saves time and all that good stuff.
I like it. For me, I think it's really about knowing yourself. I've mentioned this already, but like if a task is being given to you and you know that you're not comfortable with it, being able to say, you know what, I'd rather just do the like dust spurts or whatever. I don't want the stress of like breaking apart the entire bloody city or whatever. Knowing that about yourself and also knowing where your interests lie. Maybe it's RBDs or maybe it's dust sims, and being able to advocate for yourself in that way is really, really important. But also the second thing I would say is like, knowing when to say you don't know something and asking for that help, which you were stating as well. Like, you're surrounded by people who are very intelligent and have been doing this for a long time. And they're just this massive resource. And so many times people are like scared to say that they don't know something. And you're never going to move forward if you can't do that. So being able to say, like, look around and see who might know more about what it is you're struggling with and ask them for help and learn from them. That's one of the biggest things.
For myself, I work in advertising, so I would say imagination and patience are the two main skills for the artist. Imagination, because sometimes you can have difficult clients and you need to be able to see what is happening inside their head. And patience goes with it, because it could take some time before you get exactly the idea what they are having in their head.
Well, there's a lot in there around awareness, communication skills, understanding yourself, and having confidence to actually either learn, be vulnerable, and how you're going to get the help from your team. And also, I love this idea of being patient with the things that you may not know. What do you wish you knew before you went into effects?
I wish I knew what production schedules were like before I got into this industry. But no, I mean, there's nothing, I wouldn't say there's things that I wish I knew before I got here, because I guess I wish I knew everything. I mean, every day is like you're just constantly learning new things, which I think is great because I love learning things. I guess I wish I knew how much patience you need to be successful in this industry, like whether it be waiting for your simulations to finish, or just like understanding like how to work more efficiently, and just be cool with like how long that things take sometimes, and just being okay with just sort of marinating on that and being confident with the result. So,
Right. I think for me, and this is something I think is probably like trial by fire, but I wish I knew how to navigate better as sort of like a freelancer, sort of contract artist, and just knowing how contracts work and sort of the business side of things. Because when I came out of school, I had this amazing like knowledge base, but I didn't know how to like navigate the market and all that jazz. But and there have been a few times where it's like, oh, I wish I had that thing down in writing, because if it's not in writing, then it might not exist. So that's what I wish I would know.
I think for me, I wish I knew how little other people knew about how effects work. Because we are so immersed in it. Like, we understand that if you change a simulation at the beginning, it changes the end. Meanwhile, you're given notes like, love the end. If we could just get more detail at the beginning. No, that's not how it works. And trying to get that across to people who are so superior to you in like the chain of command in a polite way. And like get across the idea of how slow it is, how much patience it requires. Mm-hmm. It's not the same as like changing a texture, where if you want this area changed, you just paint it differently.
Yeah.
But it changes everything. And just getting that across. I wish everyone knew that, not just me.
I wish I knew how much fun it would be actually, especially now with Houdini. It's great. And I have to say, like, because I'm the male and myself, I'm going to lots of universities and speaking with the students, and they often ask me a question, so which software you would recommend me? And I'm just saying, well, just try it. And I always say Houdini. Because, yeah, it's very powerful and great. You can do so much stuff in it. So, yeah.
Has the industry changed in the last 5 to 10 years to be more inclusive? And what could we do to be even further, to further that inclusivity in the industry?
That's a really good question. I do see things changing, in the last like 5, 10 years that I've been working. I've been in the industry for, 16 years now. But, like one thing that kind of stayed constant over my years doing effects is, I'm watching numbers grow in like other departments, like animation, lighting. But for some reason, the effects teams they have like the fewest women. And I'm not sure why, because I love effects, and I'm like, everybody should love this. This is great. Why don't you want to do this? And so the last few years, I've been trying to do a little more outreach and stuff, and just sort of like go to schools and talk to people. And what I'm finding is, it's not that people aren't interested in this, is that a lot of people don't know that this exists. For example, when I was in college, I graduated with a computer science degree, and I figured if I ever wanted to get in CG, it'd be like back-end stuff, like writing ray tracers and things like that. Like, I didn't think that there would be like a good way to translate my skills into something that I could doing shot work. And so it wasn't until starting at my first job and working with effects artists and then realizing, whoa, this is procedural. Like, I know that. Like, I can code this. Like, this is really cool. I want to do it. And so just kind of getting out there and doing these sorts of panels, really just getting the word out that this is something that you can do, I think is really helping.
I haven't been in the industry for very long. I think I've been working professionally for the past year, so I don't have a huge picture view of things. But I can definitely attest to the power of encouragement and positive reinforcement. Because even as far back as high school, I was encouraged to take science classes and take math classes, and my mom was always proudest when I would do well in math, and I think that definitely helped. And I had people along the way encouraging me and saying do whatever you want, you can do anything anyone else can do. And I definitely wouldn't have been here if even as far as back as high school I didn't have that positive reinforcement. And sorry, I forgot my second point, but it was the sort of the exposure to it. When I first came into CG, I wasn't even aware that sort of effects existed. My whole view of it was modeling and animation, and that's as far as I could see. And I had a TA for one of my classes who I knew was using Houdini, and I said, hey, just why don't you show me how this thing works, because it's sort of like a buzzword. And so he opened a file and showed me how you could copy and paste relative references, and my mind immediately said, and you can control objects based on another object. My mind immediately thought, I was like, this is like an Excel spreadsheet for CG, and I immediately thought it was amazing. And it was sort of been like a downward spiral from there, going into simulations, going into proceduralism, upward spiral. But yeah, it's definitely positive encouragement, positive reinforcement, and exposure.
I think I would agree with everything Erin said. In the last 10 years, I've seen such an explosion of VFX artists, and effects is the same. I feel very lucky right now. I'm at DNEG Vancouver, and about more than 20% of our team in effects is female. And this just seems, I think that's the highest that I'm aware of at any company. And a few projects ago, there had been some gentlemen with us earlier on a team, but at one point, to finish the project for about 4 months, there was 3 women. And we were like, I think we're making history. This is just unheard of. It's completely, just never happened before. So, the fact that that was notable, I think, is just crazy. I mean, it would be so great that it's as unthought of as an all-male effects team, right? And I feel like the best thing that we can do is just exposure, and not even necessarily focused events like this where it's women in effects, just like women doing tutorials, women in other panels, like just about anything. Like we just don't have exposure to female role models. And I think that's the biggest downfall right now. Like, and I mean, I've got kids, I've got family. Like I don't tend to work outside of work. It sounds great, what are you doing? But like, I would love to see more of that, but I don't remember the last time I listened to a tutorial and I heard a female voice. It just never really happens. So I should practice what I preach here, but I'm here.
So you're going to make tutorials for us now?
Yeah, right.
We have some learning material that needs to get made.
So I'm coming from Eastern Europe, so that's a bit of a different world in terms of diversity and inclusivity. And I've been in the industry for the past 8 years, and it changed a lot because I remember, it's actually a sad story, but I remember on one interview 8 years ago when I was trying to apply in Prague, I've been told that actually visual effects is not for girls. I can't imagine that somebody would tell me that to my face nowadays, which is good. And yeah, I think like stay connected with the other artists. Like what we do in London, we do VFX Girls Meetup, and it's always great fun because we are like, maybe like you guys, but we are pretty nerdy. So we are just exchanging like, oh, have you know about this and have you know about that? And it's great. I love it.
I just want to add something, actually. I think it's funny because right now in Frozen 2, you know, we've got, like I'm a supervisor on Frozen 2, and there's another female who's a lead on the show. And we're both, like both of us, I'm in charge of water for this movie, and she's in charge of like, you know, some other sort of big physical-based effects. And so like we're the ones who are like destroying everything, and the guys are the ones doing all the Elsa magic and stuff. So I just thought that was really funny.
They're just putting sparkles on things.
Yeah, exactly. Make all the sparkly stuff.
What impact have you made on your team that you're proud of?
Oh wow. You know, it's cool because for the last few years I've been able to sort of take more of like a leadership position. And once again, this kind of goes back to the inclusivity question that you had. And you know, it's been a while since, you know, there's been a female effects supervisor at my company, and I actually think I might be the first one. So yeah, you know, it's just stuff like that. And you know, there's always the worry of like, are they promoting me because I'm a girl, or are they promoting me because I'm a minor and a female? But just like, you know, but once I step into the role, I'm like, wait, I can do this. Like this is in my wheelhouse. And just like knowing that people have the confidence in me to lead a team, and you know, people actually like listen to me and respect my opinion. And I'm like, oh, no, they didn't choose me because I'm a woman. They chose me because I'm good at this. Yeah. You know, so you know, I just think that just having like the visibility and just, you know, proving that like it's not, for lack of a better word, like a token position, I think has been good.
Beautiful.
For me, I think it's kind of similar to Erin's in that, so, you know, I've only been working for a year, and I'm just coming from this really small studio where I kind of was their whole technical department. I did a lot of R&D, I did a lot of gameplay programming, I did a lot of like performance analysis and optimization, and at times it was rough sort of being the only technical person. We did have someone else, but he works, you know, remotely, and sometimes collaboration is a little hard. But at times it was stressful. It's, you know, having to do all sort of the technical things yourself. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, I'm a woman, I'm out here, and they, you know, they're really reliant on me to get, you know, their products out. And it was, you know, that's what I'm proud of, is to be able to like hold that down and kind of represent. So.
For me, I think it's mostly just contributing to an environment of like openness and communication. I think in effects particularly, we don't participate, I think, a lot of us. We usually just sit at our desks with our headphones in and like don't do the social aspects or anything like that. So I mean, I do that as well, but like keeping in rounds and whatever, making sure that people are actually not pretending that they don't know, that they know what's going on when they don't. Like they say, oh yeah, I get that brief. Just checking. Like say it back to me, like make sure that we're all on the same page, and making sure that everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing and who knows what and whatever. Like I just think that effects can be a very close little community, and we like to keep secrets and just keeping it open.
No more wizards? Is that
No more wizards. It's not real magic, even though that's what I tell people.
For me, I'm proud at the Mill in general, because their mission, either in inclusivity and diversity, it's absolutely incredible, and they're trying to be progressive, and the company itself is full of incredible artists, and I'm so happy to be part of that. And regarding like what I'm bringing to the team, I'm trying to be supportive and bring happiness and maybe some silly jokes sometimes as well. But yeah, trying to be helpful as well, because yeah, we are in the transition. Maybe more people are learning Houdini, so I'm trying to be helpful in that sense as well.
Well, some of the things that I'm hearing here are when we don't have a representation, it's hard for people to know if they're seen, right? So sometimes it's being seen, and if you feel like you can make other people feel seen, heard, make a space for them to aspire, make it fun, you know, in ways that may be an individual touch that hasn't been there before, then that's an incredible experience. So I'm just going to ask a couple more questions, but I'd also like you to volunteer information at the end if there's anything else that you have to say. One question would be, in terms of your own experience the last year, what are some things you see happening in the industry that get you most excited, passionate, things that might happen in the future or are happening now?
I just feel like we live in some crazy times right now. I mean, technology-wise, we have like the VR stuff coming out that's becoming more mainstream. Like the advances in real-time rendering, just like with the machine learning, explorations that are being done right now. Like it's sort of crazy to think about the possibilities with what we can do in effects. And I don't know, I'm just I just think it's really cool that we live in a time that we're seeing all these changes happening. Maybe someday we'll be, doing effects work with VR goggles on and, just haptics, like, oh, can you splash some water? I'm like, yeah, here we go. Yeah. Here.
I can do this while I eat a sandwich. This is great.
I just feel like it definitely feels like we're almost at 2020 because I feel like the future is happening. So it's just really exciting to see all the innovation being done.
In the past year, I've seen quite a bit of inclusivity, and that when I mentioned the first studio I worked at earlier, when I first came in, it was me and one other woman who worked there. And on the second project I did with them, they needed to hire more contractors, and they ended up hiring all the extra contractors, or most of the extra contractors they hired were all women, for animating and modeling. And that was great because we finally, there's an equilibrium in the office of male to female workers, and it was great to have that there. And then, and I'm seeing it now at the new company I'm with, the technical artist team I'm on, all three of us are, female Houdini artists. And that's super exciting to see, and especially in the heart of Texas, it's super great to see that. So.
Wonderful.
I can't even imagine what the visual effects industry looks like in 10 years. Yeah. This is one of the most exciting things that we do right now is at tea breaks talk about that. Speculate. I think about it all the time. I do not know what my career looks like in 10 years. It baffles me, and my imagination takes it to different places every single day. So I just can't.
100% sure that it'll be changed, 0% sure what it'll look like, but it'll be exciting. Kate.
Well, in 10 years, then I was imagining myself being on the beach and selling bananas or something like that, relax. But no, it's incredible. Like now after SIGGRAPH, just to process all the amount of new information and new technologies, what is happening here, it feels like Christmas for me, because you go from one stand to another. This is all amazing. I can't actually wait to just go back to London and tell all my notes and the new stuff I learn here to everybody, and maybe we can just benefit from it in the future.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's it for us. So if you have any questions for these lovely ladies, the Hive is next door and we'll be hanging out there. Do we have time for questions or, yeah, a couple questions? Yeah, okay. Let's see if we have any questions from the audience.
Oh, cool. Wow. Speaking of new technology, so you said that you don't know, most of you don't know what your job looks like in 10 years. How do you stay excited about it, and how do you make sure that you're going to have a job in 10 years and that you won't fall between the cracks?
I just bought a house, so that's a terrifying
Congratulations.
I just really hope that I can stay relevant. Like, I'm just trying to keep up with everything that's happening. Like, I'm working on very exciting projects, so I think that just being involved in it, you're learning as you go, right? Like, I'm learning every single day. So you stay relevant by going to work.
Yeah. I think what Erin said earlier is being like very adaptive and, you know, excited about change and being willing to change and not being stuck in your ways. And I think that'll help always put you sort of the forefront of things.
Lovely.
Back there too.
Where are we going?
Thank you. Well, since you all are women, you are obviously going to be presented with other aspects of living that are not going to be male-oriented, like children, schooling, et cetera, So how do you all plan on staying focused on that?
In the last 4 years, I've taken 3 years off of work on maternity leave. So coming back from that I've had 2 children at that time. I wasn't for one child. It was 2 children.
Well, are you guys going to end up with jobs that are going to, provide for situations like that in your work experience?
I think so. I mean, I think I was very lucky. I worked at 2 different companies for those maternity leaves, and I was very lucky when I came back to work. Their impression was, Lisa's back. Okay, give her stuff. Like, it was not, there was no, like, you don't know what you're doing, and we're not going to put you in a position of authority. It was excitement that I was just a resource that was back for them. So I don't think that people fear losing their position or whatever when they go and have children or make families. But I personally, that wasn't the case for me. And I feel like I just came back into my career where I left it. And I probably did lose some promotion opportunities along the way and whatever, but I also wasn't there, right? So it's fair that other people who were there have moved ahead, but I came back right where I was. And I've also learned so much from parenting 2 crazy children, that like dealing with irrational clients, like is nothing compared to these people. Like, so if anything, it's given me more opportunity to have a successful career because I know how to deal with things that I did not know how to deal with before.
Any thoughts from you other ladies on this?
I mean, thankfully, I work for a company that's pretty flexible as far as your hours, and they know that family is important to people, so they make sure that they're not, if you have to leave because your kid is sick and you got to pick them up, and then you just leave, and they're okay with that. And I think it's important for, companies, especially just. Because I've also worked at companies where, you're at your desk for 12 hours a day. It's like, no, you can't leave. And, we've got to fix something in the industry if that's the norm. If people, can't go home to take care of their kid because they're stuck working on, some shot that's due tomorrow because of some last-minute note that came from a vendor or from a client, what's going on? There's something that's fundamentally broken. So
That
and I
seems
don't
more like a human problem too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I'm a modern woman. The onus shouldn't be on the woman to take care of the kids all the time. So, to answer your question, the way I would deal with it is the same way a man would deal with it.
Yeah. My husband is homesick with my daughter right now.
I have a question for Erin. You talked briefly about the token, feeling like, do you deserve this job or did I just get, this opportunity because I'm a woman. How obviously that didn't come from you, but your environment? Or?
Yeah, it's and it probably goes back to some imposter syndrome kind of thing where it's like, well, I didn't ask for this promotion, like why, I must have just, I'm really good at faking it, so. It just like they'll find out soon that but no, I mean I think that's always like my first thought, and it's always a fleeting thought, and it goes away pretty fast, just like once I'm given the task at hand and like breaking it down and realizing that this is something that is doable. And having I think that being able to, and I think you touched on this about like being able to have the confidence to say I don't know something, I think is important, because then you can ask people for help and not feel like like less than, or they're going to judge you because you're asking for help. But just like being secure in that, all right, like someone believes in me, like why don't I believe in myself? But, it's like that kind of thing. And I have seen I've seen failures and successes in my job, and
right.
You learn from it. But just knowing that you can do it, I think is kind of makes those like quick thoughts go away.
Do you have any thoughts on how to kind of deal with the larger perception of, I've heard men saying like, I don't know if this woman was hired because she deserves it, or so I'm just going to assume that no woman deserves it,
Sure. I mean, that's tough. I mean, that's a tough perception. And, I'm like, the way to fix that is to have more and more examples of women who are succeeding and doing things well, and like the more examples we have to show people that, like she's not getting picked just because she's a woman, like she's getting picked because she's good. Like the more of us that are out there showing the world that like we're just as good as everyone else, like that's what's going to change everything.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So I'd just like to pick up on the tutorials. Because here at Side Effects, so my team manages learning material, and we commission people to do learning material. So if any of you guys want to do learning material, I would love to work with you on that, first of all. And second of all, if you're a woman listening to this, we would like to work with you. So I agree with you that, I see this stuff all the time. I see artwork all the time. I see tutorials all the time. And there's a vast imbalance on the male to female side. And I'd love to help balance that out. So if you'd like to work on tutorials, let's do it.
Oh, we have one more question in the back there.
Coming off of how the industry is continuing to evolve and change over time, how do you all decide how you're going to learn and keep up with everything that's happening? Do you like learn in a generalized way, or do you pick something specific and kind of tailor your learning from there?
So I think the question, if I have it correct, is how do you navigate what you need to learn so that it's going to be most effective?
Yeah, and stay relevant in what you're trying to do.
I always try to break things first. So I experiment, and then I found out the power of each tool, and then I probably find the balance as well along with that. Yeah.
I think for me, I've learned out of necessity. Being like the technical area of the studio I was at, if there was a problem, well, there was only one person really qualified to solve it. And so it was do or die, and I picked up a lot of, knowledge that way.
I think that's the thing, is like you're presented with the new and wonderful things every day that they want you to just make.
Yes.
And you're like, I don't know what to do. But it'll be great. And then you figure it out. And so it is out of each day, it's, I gotta go home and figure out some stuff for like work next week, but I'm gonna be working on this project for another 8 months or something. So as it develops, I'm retraining as I'm at work each day. So it's not even, and then the next project, they'll say, oh, you worked on blah, 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 blah. And like, would you like to do that kind of thing again, or would you like to go here? And like, I can build on those same skills that I've learned. So as the industry is developing, I'm driving part of that, which is a very cool thing. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think keeping up with a lot of the some of the Houdini forums, just kind of like reading what's new in there. I mean, there's like Facebook groups that are dedicated to people learning Houdini and people who want to show off like some of like the demos they're working on. And yeah, like, so part of my social media feed is like, like new Houdini tutorials are coming up. So that kind of keeps you abreast of like the new things that are coming through, just because there's so many like students out there who are like, like, look at this thing that I made, and I'm like, oh wow, like I never thought about doing that. That's crazy. How do they do that? But yeah, I mean, so there's that, and also, yeah, just like out of necessity, right? Like you're given like this box that you have to work in for a project. It's like, okay, we need this done, but like here are your constraints, and so then, sort of the creativity sort of comes out. Like, well, what's new out there that'll help me get there faster? So yeah.
And even just honestly, like in pop culture, like the Stranger Things, like creature.
Yeah.
We have talked about that so much at work. Like, I would love to see that pop up in my tasks for the day.
What I hear here is sort of a combination of the industry demands it.
Yes.
The industry demands learning. It's part of the experience here. It's interwoven into your day-to-day. Sometimes there are tasks that you're given that you don't even know how hard the problems will be. And so you have to kind of work with them. Great. Any other questions?
So you talked a lot about just like being a woman within the effects industry, but I was wondering what like the trends are for women of color specifically. Like, is there so like what are the trends for women of color in the industry, and like do you have any do you think that there would be any measures to get more people of color into the VFX industry in general?
Maybe I can say here, it sounds like you're kind of talking about inclusivity in general.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe it's not just women, maybe it's not just race, maybe it's a combination of the two, maybe it's gender or sexual orientation. So how can we make it inclusive for everyone?
Yeah.
Well, it's, I think like right now the focus at Disney is they're really trying to, we have the cultural days at work, just trying to really showcase like the diversity of the team. I don't really have any exact numbers of like how many they break down by minority, at the company. I mean, I think for California, it's pretty diverse. Like Los Angeles is a pretty diverse city, so you do have like a lot of different ethnicities and stuff that are represented. And I think just like, just sort of celebrating that, those differences, and we'll do parties for Chinese New Year or for Holi or something like that. Yeah, I mean it's cool seeing that celebrated at work.
I would say follow Access VFX, because that's their mission, pretty much what they're doing. And London ACM SIGGRAPH chapter just started partnering with them, so we're probably gonna bring more inclusivity into industry, hopefully. But yeah, follow them. They do lots of podcasts as well and events all around the world. I think they start doing events in Montreal, in New York, and obviously London, where it's coming from.
And just to kind of synthesize some of the things you said previously, which is exposure to those kinds of role models matters. Not knowing a path when you were in education. So sometimes going to schools, as you said, and speaking that this is actually something that's available for us with these different skills. So it's a combination of education, exposure, having the models, and hopefully working on it together. Any last questions? I think we've got.
Oh.
Maybe we'll go you first.
I'm just wondering, what's the biggest benefit that you guys have seen having like inclusivity and like diversity amongst a team? Like what's been the biggest like and what has been the biggest like impact on you for having a diverse team working with people?
So the question is, what is the impact of diversity for you or on your team?
I actually have an example. It's not my personal example, but it's an example of like why I think diversity is important. So someone told me this story, which I thought was really cool, but this was like back in the Tangled days or something. So it was like, yeah, like 9 years ago or something. There was a shot that was being animated, and it was, I think it was like Rapunzel, and she's like holding Flynn Rider or something, and just the way that she's holding him, and like the animation was just, you know, it was so tender and just touching, you know, just really emotional. And it, you know, it brought out like, you know, there was like these nuances to the way that she held her hand and it was a mother who animated it. And so, you know, she animated in a way like, this is how I would hold my child, right? So like those sorts of like perspectives, I think, are really important to have. Nice. So, yeah.
For me, it's different cultures. You meet friends, or like you suddenly have friends all around the world, and they're just your colleagues because you are experiencing like what they do in their cultures, and sometimes it's a bit crazy, but that's a part of it.
I think as you get involved in larger companies, they're so multicultural because they can bring people in from all over the world. Mm-hmm. So when you are at a smaller company, you kind of feel like, oh, it's just all the white male nerds, you know. But as you move into the bigger companies and you get to meet all these people, it's just such a diversity of thinking too. Even not even coming from different cultures, but just coming from like different companies and all over the world. They do things in different ways, and they can bring efficiency or creativity to the table in ways that you have not thought of or haven't thought of in a long time. It changes the culture of where you are so much, and then they go out and contract work, and they go out and they spread it again. So it's really good.
Kind of piggybacking on what Erin said is the diversity is definitely reflected in the media that's produced, mm-hmm. and what people are being exposed to, and if you have a very exclusive select group of people, they're going to produce things that they're interested in, mm-hmm. and so playing video games growing up, it's like I was seeing what they were interested in and their worldview and what they believed in, and if you increase that, and lots of different worldviews, lots of different opinions and perspectives. It's more exposure for, children growing up and being represented or seeing things that they also love, and that definitely has a huge impact.
So it sounds like a combination of there are insights we don't know we don't have, mm-hmm. that people can offer. There is a space you can make for each other to flourish, mm-hmm. and that includes understanding your differences as well as things they can offer you about kind of where they've come from, even if it's a little bit crazy. At least it's maybe entertaining. Yeah, and so it actually benefits everybody, mm-hmm. if they're part of that conversation. Mm-hmm. We've got a question here in the front. Last question for today.
Thank you, ladies. Very inspiring. I have a question as a newly graduate in the CG field who actually aspires to maybe specialize in effects. It's fascinating, it's ever growing, it never stops, and it's just very challenging, which is exciting. But there are so many areas. So for someone hoping to get into the field and get work, what do you recommend, like a specialization in character effects or atmospheric effects or destruction, or all of the things? Should a student learn all of those things from the get-go?
I feel like you'd be spreading yourself a bit thin doing that. So I think you should think about what an entry-level effects artist would actually be working on and really nail those things. So an example that someone gave the other day was like, we work on a lot of Fast and Furious movies. Like tire dust, like kick up from that is in every single one of those, just hundreds of shots of those. And if you can do that really, really well and you have that on your reel, that's an entry for you right there. Like this simple basic effect that's really hard to nail down, getting it to look right. Just a bunch of those. Like if you try and do something that's a bit beyond your skill level, I have no idea what your skill level is, but if you're a new grad, if you try and do some kind of massive destruction shot with dust and debris and everything everywhere, you're not going to be at the same level as a team of very experienced effects artists creating that same shot. So what you need to do is like really assess what you would be doing, what you can bring to the team, and show them that you don't need training to get there. You've already done that. You know how to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know, I think like when I see a lot of student reels, you know, because they try to like cram everything in there, and I look at that and I'm like, that's a shelf tool. It's a shelf tool, shelf tool. You know what I mean? So it's not like the variety of things that really catch my eye. It's like, you know, it might just be as simple as like particles and animating, but like it was so creative and out of the box. I'm like, this person has an eye, you know? So just like find the artist in you and just like make something that you're proud of, that you know, that you're like, oh, this is a great shot, and put that on your reel.
Also be original. I know it doesn't really go with the tires if you're trying to be hyper-realistic, but if you have on your portfolio something which really catch the eye of the person who's reviewing it, then you have a better chance to be asked to come for an interview.
Your question was like, how do you figure out what to specialize in, right? Is that?
No, for someone who wants to specialize in effects.
Oh, okay, sorry.
What would be the best thing to concentrate on, or how to stand out?
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. I misunderstood a little bit. Yeah, I think these ladies covered it pretty well.
But actually, it's a great thing that you've defined here is like how can you showcase your skills, right? Whatever they may be, right? You may not be able to learn everything, but if you're going to showcase what you have at that time, you want to pick the right scope, right? Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to show what a junior artist can do. And there's nothing to be ashamed of by showing something small and basic, but really well done. So you want quality. Mm-hmm. And then you want to show maybe whatever you can that makes it your own, right? That's that originality. Maybe it's a different part of the shot. Maybe it's one other flourish that you put in there. But it's that balance between what makes something quality, what makes something original, and what is the right scope for the position. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Let's give these ladies a lovely hand.